Oh my goodness, I can't believe Star Wars just did this. Did they really just introduce us to Jar Jar Binks' great-grandmother? Hello there my dear friends, and welcome back to another Star Wars video. It is I coming at you once again, your favourite galactic hostess, Star Wars Meg. And today, Lucasfilm once and for all confirmed suspicions I've been having for about 2 or 3 years. They are finally and officially acknowledging some of the more controversial aspects of the prequel trilogy. You see, I grew up in the 90s. I was, by definition, the target demographic for the Phantom Menace. Those movies, the toys, the hype, the freaking Pepsi collaborations, they were targeted at my generation. I still remember going to Blockbuster to rent Attack of the Clones with my dad. And so, on paper, I was one of the kids George Lucas made those movies for. But, as you're aware, for many other fans, especially original trilogy fans, it's a very different story. And so when Lucasfilm was bought by Disney in 2012, they decided it was time for a pivot. Prequel hate was very recent, and there was a noticeable cooling off period regarding pretty much anything associated with them. The animated shows were a bit more relaxed about this, but when they were planning the sequel trilogy, they tried to make as few prequel allusions as possible. It's why there are certain characters, planets, and aliens that they entirely avoid. It wasn't so much an official ban, but rather a combination of marketing strategy, brand repositioning, and fan culture calculations. I call it Jar Jar Binks avoidance syndrome. They were doing everything to distinguish themselves from the CG-heavy prequel era. And it's why The Force Awakens tried to appeal more to original fans. The marketing was all about Han Solo, Chewie, the Falcon, X-Wings, TIE Fighters, Stormtroopers. It's why they made the Resistance the Rebellion 2.0, and why they made the First Order the Empire 2.0. And because of that, anything reminiscent of the prequel trilogy was basically moved to the fringes. They were still making merch of Obi-Wan and Anakin, but they really played it safe. Same with Disneyland fireworks. If you look back at some of the videos from around 2016, 2017, there is very little prequel trilogy stuff. I've seen a few of these videos, and there is some Mace Windu, Anakin, and Obi-Wan, but they don't linger on it. The main focus was on the OG heroes, and the new ones, Rey, Finn and Poe. But when fan opinion on the sequels started to sour, so between 2015 and 2017, there was another shift happening at the same time. Prequel backlash had been replaced by prequel appreciation, even appreciation that was more tongue-in-cheek and ironic. The community surrounding posting prequel memes was growing, and fans who grew up on episodes 1 to 3 in the Clone Wars were starting to become young adults. As a result, suddenly there was demand for more aspects of those films. It's why before The Rise of Skywalker, fans were begging to see Anakin. Unfortunately, we only heard his voice. However, this new fan demand for the prequel trilogy meant Disney changed their approach yet again. And in the 2020s so far, we've seen an insane prequel resurgence, one that is not just driven by fans, but Lucasfilm themselves. The Obi-Wan Kenobi show, Clone Wars flashbacks in Ahsoka, more Hayden Christensen for Ahsoka Season 2, The Clone Wars Season 7, The Bad Batch, more Shadow Lord coming up, numerous books and comics, and even references in other shows, ones that don't necessarily take place in this era. And as a prequel fan myself, all I can say is happy days. But, and there is a very big but, there is one aspect of episodes 1 to 3 they're too scared to acknowledge outside of the books. Gungans. They have been referenced in several places. In The Mandalorian, in Bloodline, in the Aftermath trilogy, in certain comics, but they seem very scared to put Gungans back on the screen. Gungans in the flesh with the funny accents as part of major Star Wars stories. But now, in 2025, things are changing. Lucasfilm just did something very daring, and I'm very, very impressed. And the process to get where we are today started around a year ago. Ever since the positive response to the Darth Jar Jar Lego joke, things really started to ramp up, and in 2025, we've had numerous acknowledgements of that part of the prequel trilogy. Naboo appeared in live action for the first time in decades in Andor Season 2, and in the very same episode we see the skull of a Gungan in Luthen's shop. Another great recent example of this pivot is the Kylo Ren comics, The Legacy of Vader. We even see Gungans, and Kylo is fascinated to learn about his grandparents. He even talks about Padme, a character not mentioned once in episodes 7, 8 and 9. Also, next year we're getting a Jar Jar Binks comic, which might connect to Grogu's story, because it connects to the Rebellion and Keller and Beck. And that's when I realized, hang on a minute, Lucasfilm is changing their tune, and we might be very close to another live-action appearance from Jar Jar Binks, or another Gungan. And while it's not the most impressive or captivating place for the wider Star Wars fan base, we were just introduced to a new Gungan, and we return to Naboo once again in on-screen content, not for live action, but the animated show Young Jedi Adventures. In the first couple of seasons we did see another Gungan, Tuba Jinx, but in the brand new season which dropped today, we return to some famous locations from the Phantom Menace, and there are so many Easter eggs. It's the most widespread acknowledgement of Gungans since the Disney acquisition. We just returned to Lake Peonga, we saw some tri-bubble bongo submarines, also called Gungan ships, in the episode, and we were introduced to a female Gungan called Klurt. And while she does have the distinctive Gungan accent, it's very, very dialed down compared to Jar Jar Binks. Compared to the way Gungans speak in the Clone Wars and the Prequel trilogy, this is pretty mild. But it's a huge day and an enormous milestone, because as we go into 2026, is the acknowledgement of Gungans going to keep growing, and could they introduce a new one into live action? The Mandalorian and Grogu already has other prequel links, Rot of the Hutt, some leakers said Embo. Do you think, maybe, just maybe, I don't want to say it, I know some fans don't like that idea, but do you think there's a chance? I do still think about the skull in Luthen's shop. I know it's just an Easter egg, but when you piece all of these clues together, the upcoming comic, now the Gungan section of Naboo appearing in animation, a major character being voiced by Shelby Young, I do wonder if there is more planned. In terms of upcoming films, The Mandalorian and Grogu would be a great place. I don't know if it'd literally be Jar Jar Binks, but it might be, due to connections with Keller and Beck, who's played by Ahmed Best. The Naboo Royal Guard was there, Jar Jar Binks is part of the Rebellion, who knows? But there has been a shift in opinion, and the reaction to Naboo appearing in Andor kind of proved it. I know it's a bit different when you're talking about Gungans, but sentiment towards the prequel trilogy is very different compared to the 2010s. With a response to the Phantom Menace's 25th, I think fans have moved on. And even those who don't necessarily like the Gungans, I've seen people say, well, at least they're better than the sequel trilogy. So I do definitely think Disney is aware of this, and slowly but surely, we're going to see more and more of this shift. And they might do to the Gungans what was done to the Neimoidians in The Acolyte. They gave them softer accents, they made them more palatable. It's kind of like what they did with the new Gungan in Young Jedi Adventures. She was less of an overtly comic relief character, and more of a hero, recovering a very sacred Jedi artifact. I think they're an interesting species, and I can't help but associate them with George. Share your thoughts down below, guys, and if you enjoyed this one, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and may the Force be with you, always.